Now we are looking at matters polls as the media. How have we been covering them? And I would like to sample some of your responses. How has the media, according to you, been covering, especially the presidential candidates? That is exactly what we will be keen to look at in this second hour. And now I'm joined by a lady and gentleman. We have Lucy Mworia, who is the Azimio One Kenya Coalition Deputy Treasurer. And also she will be vying for the Isiolo North Member of Parliament post. And on my extreme left, we have Professor Hezron Mogambi, who is a communication expert and also a leadership and governance expert. Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana.
Thank you.
First things first, we've had cases of violence against women, or their campaign tools, including their billboards. We've seen some being threatened on camera. How has the campaign trail been? Of course, you have another post that you have at Azimio, but as a woman, gunning for Isiolo North parliamentary seat, how has the campaign trail been?
Thank you very much. And first of all, before I continue, I want to thank KBC for sponsoring the ladies. And I want to congratulate our ladies, Pauline, and the rest. Congratulations, I'm very proud of you as a stride for women.
Yes.
I'm so feminist, I'm so...
Thank you, thank you.
So, what has it been for me? I'm like, did someone tell you about my billboard the day before yesterday?
Okay, just hold the thought, hold the thought. Our current MD is speaking, Samuel Maina, in regards to the sponsorship that KBC has just unveiled. Let's listen in.
Good.
Is it as it is ready? We will soon be crossing over to know more on the nitty-gritties of that sponsorship. But you are saying, apologies for that interjection, but you are saying how the campaign trail has been.
The campaign trail, I'm like, did someone tell you about me? Because 2 days away, my billboard was brought down at night.
You are a victim of that.
It's still actually cut. I can show you the pictures. It's not been removed and to report to the police. And nothing has really much happened.
Where exactly did that happen?
That is Isiolo town.
Isiolo town?
Yes.
Okay.
The day before yesterday. We woke up to find that the big billboard that costed me around 50,000 was cut into pieces.
Wow.
And earlier on, I think last month, another ladies' billboard, our women rep, was also cut into pieces.
And looking at, I'm trying to get to, I'm trying to picture how that is. There are men billboards as well.
Yes.
And they're just intact?
Yes, actually in the contest in Isiolo for MP, we are 15, and there are only 2 ladies, and mine was brought down. It is, even now it is half, it's cut into pieces, it's still there. I reported to the police, no one has been held responsible. I reported to the media, no one even trying to cover it. They think it's maybe business as usual. I actually talked to someone from Nation and said, like, I think this is in news. And I also even talked to NSIC because it's serious, because like, you know, when something like that happens, I also have supporters who woke up and found that my billboard is not there. So they are like, we should also bring down all the others. So that's a starting point of chaos. Yeah.
Wow.
This has been happening. There's been a lot of threats, and there's been a lot of
intimidation,
especially on the social media. You hear called all sorts of names. And I think it's because we are ladies, especially there is because I am a lady, trying to grab a seat which is meant for men.
Professor Mogambi, looking at what Lucy is talking about, there are some of the politics that we shouldn't be having in the country in the year 2022, but she's not talking about back in the days. She's talking about the day before yesterday. And you can see the violence that has been meted on her and her campaign tools. And it's not the first time. There was a clip that was circulating on social media of a woman being intimidated because she's vying.
First of all, thank you for always a pleasure to come to the state broadcaster. Secondly, also to congratulate my friend and student, who happens to be your colleague.
Yes.
For the rally.
Pauline Shegu.
Pauline Shegu is a great fit always to have ladies take this trek which men have been taking for a long time. And I think it's against that backdrop. I want to say that it is against the Elections Act to destroy material of campaign nature, not only to ladies but to anyone. I mean, it's against the law, and I think the right direction she took to report to police, because anybody who is found culpable for that kind of offense, of course, is liable, according to the Constitution, to be fined or to be jailed, because against the Elections Act. Or even both. But secondly, more importantly, to say, I think in this day and age, we should not be talking about gender violence meted upon women or even men because of their gender. And I think we have come a long way, so to speak, in terms of representation and integrating the other gender, and I mean women here, into our political mainstream. The Constitution 2010 is very explicit on what representation should be, and we actually, in our political culture, we don't want to make it look like women are being given, so to speak, so that they play with men on the same level field. They ask for votes like men, they win votes like men, and they have done this. For the first time in the history of the country, we are having a woman running mate. Not in the sense, because I know Dr. Julia Ojambo has been a running mate, others have been there before, but to this level where the top tier, presidential candidate has, one of the front runners has a woman as a running mate. That's a feat. So I think we have come a long way. But at the same wavelength, I want to say that it is very unfortunate that a woman can actually be attacked or their campaign materials defaced or destroyed on the basis of her gender, on the basis that she's a woman. I think that should be condemned, and the police should take, and all the other arms, NSCIC and the others, intelligence system, should take appropriate action so that these issues are not again repeated elsewhere in the country. I know in some parts of Western and in some parts of Nyanza, some campaign materials have been destroyed, posters have been defaced, not only of women, but also opponents who are men. But I think these are isolated incidents, and I think we want to condemn them first, but importantly, to ask for the agencies involved to take appropriate action so that we nab this thing in the bud, and the free or democracy which exists should be exercised by anyone, anytime, any place, as our Constitution stipulates.
All right. Yes. And of course, the police have...
I recorded a statement, but they have not given me any report. They have not arrested anyone yet. My billboard is still there. I think some pieces are left. I've not even removed it. It's still there. I've not replaced.
In social media, you've talked about some bullying in social media. What exactly do they kind of to threaten or to
threatening? Yes. In Isiolo is like those areas where there is arranged democracy, where Wazir sit down and decide who is going to contest. And of course, definitely in those meetings, there are no women who are invited in them. I'm also a victim of that. So you find that the woman should step aside. For me, I've been bullied. Even my opponent going around announcing that I've stepped down for him and confused all the people that, people are just confused to cause confusion. And just because she's a woman, she should step aside. Yeah, so it's been happening. Yes.
All right. Back to the topic of discussion. Looking at what we are currently looking at, we are looking at the media. I do remember the Deputy President and Kenya Kwanza talked about media in Kenya being biased, talking about they are not being given, for presidential candidates, are not being given equal media coverage. You are one of the members that sits in Azimio. In your view, how would you say the media has covered, and especially when we had the manifesto launch and the campaign trail?
I think the manifesto has been covered, even the trail. But I think the day there was the deputy president and Wajakoya, I think having them side by side, maybe it's them who decided to have it on the same day. I think some paid attention on one side more because maybe like Wajakoya's manifesto was like kind of comical, and people are paying more attention to that. Like, for example, if you ask me what Dr. Ruto said, I wouldn't even tell, even now, because he's serious. I don't know his manifesto. Wajakoya took the stage.
Yes.
And now I don't know if it was the arrangement of the media houses or it was the arrangement of them to do it the same day.
No, it was actually, I can speak for KBC on this.
Yeah.
It is squarely...
Their choice.
It's squarely their choice on the day and the timings. But we tried, and I remember KBC, we just switched from after Kenya Kwanza was done with the manifesto, we brought in Professor Wajakoya and Tingisha Miti. So I can say for KBC that we did cover.
But Wajakoya scored, as far as I'm concerned, because a lot of people, maybe there are things they want to hear. He was telling people what majority want to hear: shortcuts, how to get rich very fast, how to avoid, the law, such things. So I think he scored, and most people did not understand what Ruto was talking about, I think. But on part of Azimio, I think Azimio and Dr. Samaura yesterday, I think that the coverage was good because they're on their own and then their time. There was no interferences. There were no one to compare this and that. I think it was covered well.
All right.
But the coverage you're talking about, like now, I'm telling you, my material was pulled down. I talked to media people, and this is actually news. I don't think that is not news, to find somebody's big billboard on it's cut into pieces. But no one has covered it.
Okay.
And I think it's because it is a woman who was reporting. Yeah.
All right.
I think it was news. Yes.
And when we come back, Prof, you will tell us, okay, when it comes to media coverage, some people talking to the media, we are left questioning ourselves. We are supposed to cover the 4 presidential candidates. Yet some are talking about Wajakoya. We are propagating. It's like we are vouching for Wajakoya's an orthodox manifesto, or so to speak. But where do we draw the line? How should we cover the 4 presidential candidates? And especially if they are propagating or talking about something controversial. We have seen the spat between the president and the deputy president. Are these some of the things that we're supposed to bring out to Kenyans? Okay, we will be back with that. Because just joined us, this is News Check, and I'm joined by 2 professionals. We are talking about the state of politics and especially the media. How are we covering the campaign trails? How have we covered the manifesto? Are we being fair? What more should be done? What should we not show? We'll be back with more. Welcome back to KBC News Check, and in case you just joined us in the second hour, we are looking at the coverage, media coverage when it comes to aspirants, and more specifically the 4 presidential candidates, and of course looking at the nitty-gritties of how things have been on the campaign trail. And I'm joined by Mworia, who is gunning for Isiolo North Member of Parliament seat, and also the Deputy Treasurer of the Azimio Coalition, and we have Professor Mogambi here, who is a communication expert and also a leadership and governance expert. Before we went for that short commercial break, we were looking at, it's quite a pity that Madam Lucy here is not the first woman who has experienced a lot of hostilities in her campaigns. And when we talk about some of the regions in Kenya, they kind of don't really welcome women with open hands if they are vying for a political seat. Is this something if you ask me, Professor, that's good. we are going backwards?
I think I don't share the same sentiment, because what is happening, if you look throughout the country, you'll see that we have been making progress. I think the progress could be, perhaps is slower than what we need. But you see most of the women, and I can take it from me, we are going to have more women in parliament than we've had in this parliament, the next parliament. If you ask me, most of those women who have Millie Odhiambo and the rest have been nominated first for people to change the perception about women. And so when they are nominated, then people can see women can serve. And we are coming from a backdrop of the traditions where women were not really considered to be leaders. Take the case of Kajiado East. You remember what happened. The current member of parliament was admonished that a woman cannot stand, and that is their Maasai culture, cannot stand when men are seated. All right? So cannot be a leader. But because of the change and the cosmopolitan nature of Kajiado East politics, she was elected finally. But now they have embraced in that culture women leadership, and that's why she went back. And now she even dared to move on and wanting to be a governor. All right? And there are many examples. Rosa Munga, nominated senator in Kisumu, now is running for MP, wants to be elected. Naisula Lesuda in Samburu West. And they are glittered all over, in coast, everywhere. So what is happening is that there is an increase, one, of women who are being elected, despite all the hostilities. Two, the number of women who are running for elective seats, forget about losing, is very encouraging, because the more they run, the merrier, because the increase in numbers. And they're also showing, my sister Mworia is showing other young girls that actually women can run and get elected. So they are serving as examples for upcoming women and who wants to be elected. And I think the violence and all that is there because of the cultural beliefs. And Mworia is running in Isiolo North. And you know what happens in the northern part of Kenya, where we have negotiated democracy. Yeah. And this negotiated democracy is focusing on men. That clans have positions for MP, for senator and all that. So they divide. But when they divide, they only think about, men. But fortunately, that's what I'm saying, things are changing. She's running, one of our opponents is my friend Abshiro, who is a nominated senator, but now running for MP in the same seat. What does that show you? It is moving slowly by slowly, the perception is changing. In northern Kenya, we have now women who are not women reps, but they are actually senators elected, MPs elected. So that shows you in that part of Kenya, which is deeply engraved in that culture where men are the leaders, is slowly changing. And so are parts of Coast, and so are parts of Nyanza province, if you ask me, the former Nyanza province, Maasai. We have now people, and we have women who are elected as MPs. Forget about women rep, because women rep is for women, who are now elected as MP. So we are moving. If you look at, in fact, the lower echelons, like the MCA, you find that there are very many women in the county assembly who are not nominated, but they are elected. So that shows that we are making baby steps. They may not be what we want, but we are moving slowly, progressively towards the goal.
And Prof, let me just pick your mind on the same line.
Yes.
We've seen that it's a good thing that you've seen that they're first being nominated, and then people change the perception, and then they are allowed to...
they're elected.
They're elected, right?
Yes.
But there's also another issue still on the same line that we've seen, is that when they are married, if they are married, you hear some of the people talking about this is something else that is very
true. It is still cultural, because they believe once there's a culture, it's African belief that once you're married, then you no longer belong to the home. Therefore, technically, you no longer belong to that constituency or county. But that is also slowly changing. Take the example of the first women governor of Bomet, the late Joyce Laboso.
Yes.
She was married in Kisumu County, but she served not only as a governor, because she was married before. becoming a governor. She was serving as an MP for Sotik constituency, and she was married elsewhere. But she showed leadership in how she was delivering, and that is how she became the first governor, woman governor of Bomet County, and amongst the few women who became, governors in the post-2010 constitution. So I think we are making progress. I know culture, and you know very well, and my sister Mworia knows very well, culture is not something you change in a day. You change it progressively. I think the more we are having, like now, I can assure you, I have seen the women candidates who have been nominated by parties across for MP, for senator, and others. They are very, very strong candidates. And I think we are going to have more of them going to parliament and to senate, and others becoming governor. In fact, we may end up having more female governors than we had this time. So I think that is in that basis I'm saying we are making progress, and the more people see women in leadership and show their contribution, then they start realizing they were actually against them for no apparent reason. Secondly, I think to answer the question about media coverage, if you allow, I think media coverage can be looked at in many aspects. One, we look at quantity in terms of time given to particular presidential candidates. Two, we look at quality, because you can actually give somebody 10 minutes, 1 hour, but what kind of contribution are they giving? Thirdly, there's also the issue about polling. Because, media has no capacity, has nothing to do with polling. The polling companies do their work, and media provides coverage or reports about them. And so I think, personally, I think the media in Kenya has been very fair, if you ask me, as a messaging expert, very fair in terms of coverage. Because the media picks news makers. If Madam Mworia here does not make news, and she talked about something which was to be covered and she hasn't seen, if you don't make news, then you are not covered. All right? So if Wajakoya, for example, makes news, he is covered. But the interest in the news, because you also monitor your news coverage, the interest in the news, the more people are interested in that part of the news, the more you want to cover it. Because you also want people to follow you, you want people to watch you, you want ratings. So in terms of coverage, I think there has been a fair distribution in terms of covering not only DP William Ruto or Honorable Raila Odinga, but also I saw Mworia yesterday, and I've seen Wajakoya also being given fair coverage, because they are at that level, they are presidential candidates. I don't want to say that women have been denied coverage as compared to men, because the other thing is also our women need to learn how to ensure they are covered. All right? Because I always take this option this way. There are too many activities happening in the country, from presidential to MCA, and the media is supposed to cover all of them, but can't cover all of them. Then how do you endear yourself to the media to ensure you are covered? There are specific issues you are supposed to do to ensure you are covered by the media across, whether it was KBC, NTV, whatever it is. But from where I sit, I think the coverage so far has been very fair to all the presidential candidates and across, because I also look at what print does. Sometimes you are not covered by electronic, you're covered by print or online. As well. So I think as a fair person who has looked through all the spectrum of coverage, I think at this point in time, I want to say the media has been very fair in coverage.
All right. Lucy.
Yes.
There's something that we also were looking at, and I've engaged Prof on the same, and especially in Isiolo. When we had a break, you said that is something that was there, where the woman is told you are married in another place, so you should go get, and it has happened in Embu County. Sesiri Mbarire is having the same issues where people say you're married somewhere else. And it's not only in the northern frontier counties. I'm not singling out Isiolo County, but it's quite rampant in those North Frontier counties. Can the media assist in changing this perception?
Actually, it's not just about where you are married. Are you even married? The question of you are a single woman. You should be having your husband here to say, that he wants you to run for the position. So the issue is not just even being married, at least you are married. But how about a single woman? There are people who are single by choice, by divorce,
and they have leadership
widowed, and they have leadership. Have also gone through that. So I think the media can do that. You can do education. You can civic educate people. The leadership has nothing to do with your husband or your wife. Even when you're in parliament, no one's ask you who is your husband or who is your wife.
Hold the thought. But back to our discussion, we are looking at the role of media in the campaign trails and ensuring that we cover impartially, because some people have complained that the media are not being quite objective. And two experts here, we have Azimio One Kenya Deputy Treasurer Lucy Mworia, who is also gunning for the Isiolo North parliamentary seat, and we have communication expert and leadership and governance expert as well, Professor Hezron Mogambi. And before we went for Azimio rally, you were talking about something. Perhaps you can wrap it up and then we can...
Yeah, we were talking about how slow, women are catching up, or the issue of women in politics is catching up, only that it is very slow. So I wonder how long it's going to take. Remember, there is the two-third gender rule law, and it has been postponed. It has been gradual, it has been progressive now for 10 years, and still nothing is taking place. How long are we going to continue breaking the law? Yeah, and we are breaking so many of them. We say people should have degrees, they don't get it. You say parliament should be having the two-third gender, either gender, it's not happening. So is it that we need to change the constitution to suit what we want?
Or even increase the number of affirmative seats?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Professor, there's something that we have also touched on. There are some even media houses who would argue that unless you are a newsmaker, you have to make news so that you may be covered. Now, how do we now take the balance between what is being covered, and especially, let's give a practical example, on the ideologies of Professor Wajakoya.
Yes.
They are being covered, and social media, I think, is doing a far much better job than broadcast and print. How do we strike that balance between what is being propagated that can help Kenyans, and as people would like to put it, some things to just make Kenyans excited?
I think you are trying to ask the dichotomy between perhaps what can be classified as development journalism vis-a-vis the normal or the social one.
Yes.
And it's a daisy situation. To balance that becomes difficult for media houses. However, one of the attributes of news making, you know very well, is oddity. That is how odd an issue is. Out of the ordinary. Yes. No, everywhere. Yes. How did Donald Trump excite Americans? And I was there at some part when he was campaigning. How did he excite Americans to vote for him? It's because of odd. He became odd in the sense in which he was talking. He became unpresidential. He became, he broke all the rules.
Even the dressing itself.
Even the dressing. He became president. Even the way he used to treat the media. Look at the media itself. He was like a bully. He didn't want to question. In fact, he will go to a press conference and he becomes the one interviewing himself. He will say, this is what I want to answer. Can you ask? In fact, he used to be the one to decide who will ask a question and what kind of question.
Yes.
Which was out of the ordinary, which was odd. But he became president. So it is not that it is Kenyans who are looking for. It is a characteristic, it is an issue that when something is odd, out of the ordinary, people become sensitive and want to know what is this which is not normal, like the ordinary. And that's why Madam Mworia is saying people are more interested in watching Wajakoya during the manifesto launch, and even after that, 3 days online, social media, that was the discussion.
That was the discussion.
Because Wajakoya is bringing very mundane and ordinary things and changing them to look very real and great. First of all, we are talking about the economy, and people are hard pressed, families are hard pressed, and he's here giving what looks very mundane, very small, as an answer to a very big problem. To the families, to individuals, and the nation. How do we unlock this issue about debt? And it's something. The economy is a big thing.
You seem to be giving practical examples.
Practical examples.
As opposed to,
that's what I'm saying. It looks mundane, but
practical solutions. Okay, let's
looking like
solutions.
It makes sense. I check online what people are discussing, and so for the media, I think they will continue, and you're doing a great job, answering the call of what the people want, what the people like, and what the people like is out-of-the-box solutions to our ordinary challenges every day. Economy, social, how do you deal with corruption? Corruption is an issue. How do you deal with the economic meltdown is an issue. How do you deal with the school challenges of school fees? An issue.
All right.
I think anybody who wants coverage must know this thing.
All right.
That you cannot be covered by the media by sitting down like we are sitting and trying to discuss. Unless you are a newsmaker in the sense in which you've been in position, the president, prime minister, or whoever. But if it is Madam Mworia here, she must make news by way of inviting the media by what she does to be able to be covered.
All right.
So it's
a number,
It's like Prof is trying to say, it's like when you hear about taking a monkey and then go to the market, people will surround more around the monkey. A lot of people, although they know they would buy it to take it home, but Lucy, they want to see it.
In 2 minutes, how different are you going to be if you become the next Isiolo North Member of Parliament? Speak to them, at least now that the camera will not suffer the same fate as your billboards.
Isiolo people, good morning to all of you. I thank KBC at least for supporting me in Isiolo, and today I'm here in the national TV. There are a few things I want to rectify in Isiolo. First, the work of a member of parliament is education and insecurity, and that is what is surrounding Isiolo all along. Maybe as you've been reading news all the time, you see Isiolo starts from the bottom when you're looking at the results, and I want to dissect that. I want to know why people in Isiolo have been complaining about unfairness in distribution of bursaries, which are supposed to be an obvious thing. It's not a favor to get a bursary, so I'm going to make sure that they are fair. We have a lot of unemployed youth in Isiolo, and most of them do not have skills. As a member of parliament, I'm going to make sure that they go to TVET schools, and those who are not able to go to the universities can also be useful. They are not useless because they dropped out of school. So I make sure they go to TVET school, they get the skills, and after they get the skills, I make sure that I give them the tools to do the work. And I'm not going only to use the CDF money. I've traveled all over, I've lived in different countries, I have a lot of networks, so I'm sure I can raise all those monies to do what I'm talking about. About the insecurity, I've always told them, they see like our police station in Isiolo, it looks the worst. None of those institutions that are really for security are taken care of. I want to make sure they are fenced, they are built. Our police have toilets, of which they do not have, all those things. And I want to make sure for the first time, now we are here with a professor. Isiolo is the only county that does not have a university in Kenya today.
Wow.
I remember.
Not even
not even, So I'll make sure we have a university.
Thank you so much. Perhaps I can read just a few. I am safe in the hands of whoever will win, be it Ruto or Raila. Mradi tu ajakoya sichukue. Okay, hiyo ni Nixon Rusena. There is comment tuned from Mombasa. Jayton Tyson. David Carr say he wants to see students style up when it comes to matters drinking. That is also another issue, Prof. You can attest to that. John Karanja, you're also watching Masecurity. Thank you so much for keeping me company. This is a discussion we need to have again. Thank you so much, Professor Mogambi, and thank you so much, Madam Mworia. She's gunning for the Isiolo North Parliamentary seat, and the professor is a communication expert and also a leadership and governance expert. Thank you so much for watching. I'm now giving rise to Kurunzi Mashinani and Tamrini. I can see my colleague Timothy Kipnusu is on standby. Thank you indeed so much for watching. My name is Njue, and let's continue this conversation on social media.
Thank you.
Thank you.